Welcome to the channel. I'm Tony the Technician. Today we're going to be going into the Harbor Freight website and checking out 10 of the best or top rated specialty tools that they have available for the automotive field. So keep in mind that a lot of these are going to be for weekend warriors, DIYers, not necessarily the professional field. Now don't get me wrong, there are plenty of items at Harbor Freight, even the specialty tools, that would be good for the actual professional field, but a majority of them are still going to be a weekend warrior, DIYer. Just because every day or every week type of abuse in the automotive field would definitely put a damage on a lot of them. Also keep in mind, if you're a weekend warrior DIYer that, you just come across a situation where you're only going to need this once or twice in your life, even at the cheaper price, it may not be worth purchasing it if you have AutoZone, O'Reilly's, Advanced near you where you can just rent the tool and get your money back upon return. That might be your best bet. But if you think you're going to get some decent use out of it, it is nice to have some of these tools on hand just so you don't have to physically leave to go get the tool and worry about returning it, things like that, especially at the price. So just take into consideration how often you're going to be using this. So first up is the Pittsburgh Pulley Remover and Installer Set. Some of these items I do have, some of them I do not, but I do have experience with a majority of them with another brand that is still cheaper. I keep a lot of specialty tools here at the house for anything that I come across, and a lot of them are cheaper just because I know I don't need a more expensive one. So this is a 12-piece set, and this is just simply for removing and installing pulleys, power steering, anything like that. These can be extremely handy. Very basic little kit. Now, the downside of these is usually the fasteners used for this are a little bit softer, a little bit cheaper made than your higher end ones. But this one does have 4.1 stars out of 5 with an 85% customer recommendation with 1,481 reviews. There's a little bit of information on it. We're not going to go over a whole lot of details, just simply what the tool is for, and then kind of determine for your amount of use with a tool like this, would it be good for you? At $25, I think it's a great set. There's a lot of ones on Amazon that are right around this price range. So if you have a Harbor Freight close to you, this might be the best option if you're not considering renting the tool. Next up is the Maddox McPherson Strut spring compressor set. And this is probably one of the most common style of spring compressor. There are many different styles out there. This being one of the most popular ones. These can be absolutely fantastic and absolutely terrifying at the same time. I actually use this style to do the lift kit on my truck, and the front springs on my 23 Colorado are extremely stiff, and these were super sketchy. I've probably used this tool close to 100 times in the last few years, and not specifically the Maddox one, but this style. It's just sketchy all around. I try whenever possible to get to a shop to use the wall-mounted spring compressor, but unfortunately for the Colorado, I couldn't get that done. So I was using this, and while it is scary at times, they're very handy as long as you do it right. Make sure you have them opposite each other and that they stay opposite each other. They don't come too close to each other. And evenly compress them. Obviously, they state don't use an impact on them because then you can pinch one side quite a bit more than the other, and then you take the chance of really wearing out those threads, because on these cheaper ones, the threads will get worn out quite a bit, and you want to make sure those pins stay locked. So if you're just doing, possibly springs once every 5 years, this isn't a bad deal at $35. Once again, for about $40, you could probably rent this, return and get your money back. But it is handy to have on hand. This one has 4.7 stars at 98% customer recommendation with 1,542 reviews, and just a little bit of information on it. Next up, we are looking at the Pittsburgh Automotive Pneumatic Brake Bleeder, and these can be fantastic. If you have access to air, these are much better than the hand ones, and we'll get to that here in just 1 minute. This one is at a lower price of $30, down from a previous price of $33. And if you're just one person trying to do your brakes, for $30, I think this is a fantastic kit. There are much higher end ones available of the pneumatic style, but once again, If you use this once a year, once every 2 years, I think it's a great price for this, and obviously you have an air compressor. This one has 4.1 stars with an 83% customer recommendation with 1,739 reviews, and there's just a little bit of information on it. I definitely prefer this over this hand style here, and then they do have a more expensive set here it's just going to include more fittings and adapters, and then the Mighty Vac version over here. So they have a few different variations there at Harbor Freight, but I'll get to that in just 1 minute. I think this is a great kit for $30. Brake bleeding is usually something that's going to be done a little bit more than some of these other items that we've gone over and some others that we're about to go over. Next up is the Pittsburgh Automotive Serpentine Belt Tool Kit. So this is a very basic serpentine belt tool kit, and there are a lot of nicer ones out there, $50, $60, and then some that get quite expensive. If you tend to do serpentine belt jobs fairly often, it might be worth stepping up to one that might be a little bit more versatile, a little bit more adaptable. But if you're just one that is going to keep this on hand for whenever you need for your own personal vehicle, you shouldn't be doing belts too often. This is a good one for $20. No, it's not the most versatile. No, it's not the highest end, but having a serpentine belt tool can actually be extremely handy depending on what vehicle you own. Some of them are fairly easy to access, the tensioner, but some of them can be a real pain. And with this tool, it makes the job a lot easier. And for $20, I think it's well worth the price. You get 3 different crow's foot attachments and 3 different sockets. You get this extension that also allows you to gain extra angles by attaching it to the end. This one has 4.5 stars and a 92% customer recommendation with 2,046 reviews. Here's just a little bit of information, the size fasteners and crow's foot wrenches that you're going to receive with this kit. Next up, we're looking at the Maddox brake pad caliper service tool kit. This is an 11-piece set, and this is for when you need to compress your piston in your caliper. And some vehicles use specific keyways. Like you can see here, you have multiple different plates here with different keyways on it for different styles of pistons. So this is really nice. So depending on if your vehicle requires that or not, or you just have the standard plates that will just compress the piston if you don't need that keyway. So it is a nice complete kit that has quite a bit of variation. There you can see it in use. I use a ratcheting style. It doesn't have any keyway attachments or anything like that, but I absolutely love that. Mine's from Lang. You can get them from a lot of knockoff brands now on Amazon. Back when I bought mine, there was really only a couple other brands, and I knew Lang, and I knew a lot of people that used it in the professional field. So that's the one I went with, and I really enjoy it. Luckily, none of my vehicles require any special keyways, so that's what I stuck with. But if I would ever require it, I would either go this route or the rental way for $45. This one has 4.7 stars with a 97% customer recommendation with 2,080 reviews. There's a little bit of information on it, as well as the different discs that you will receive with the kit and the applications they're good for. So here we're looking at the Pittsburgh wheel puller set. This is at $18, very cheap. You get quite a decent assortment of different fasteners here. Obviously, this is great for pulling steering wheels, but this can also be used for other things as well. I used mine on my harmonic balance puller. You can also use it on many different things. It's basically a very versatile tool as long as you can get it to fit where you need. It's a pretty good puller. Now, the downside being some of these fasteners are extremely cheap and may wear out. The good thing is a majority of them you can probably go to the hardware store and replace with a better quality fastener. But then again, is it worth upgrading those fasteners or just buying a better quality set? I'm just stating that some of these fasteners can be quite weak and get deformed fairly easily, but it's a great tool to have. Absolutely fantastic with a great little assortment there. This has 4.6 stars with a 96% customer recommendation with 2,098 reviews. And here's just a little bit of information on it. And here we're looking at the Pittsburgh brake bleeder and vacuum pump kit. So I have one almost identical to this. It's not the Pittsburgh one, but I know it's the exact same thing. I can't stand using mine. This is one of the most rated specialty tools at Harbor Freight, but I unfortunately do not care for this style. I find using a soda bottle with the brake bleeder hose from this kit, running it into a little brake fluid in there, the one-man bleeder kit, it's easier to do it that way than it is to actually use this system. I was trying to bleed the brakes on my Camaro with this kit, and it was going to take me weeks to bleed the system with this. Obviously, there are definitely better options to do a full bleed of the system. Unfortunately, I don't personally care for this style. I would either use the pneumatic one that we went over earlier, or just use a simple bottle with the hose. It's much faster, much more efficient. So that's just my personal thoughts on it. This is $25. The soda bottle will cost you $2, and the hose will cost you $2. You might be in at $5, and it works way better. That's just my personal opinion. This has 3.7 stars out of 5, and it doesn't show a customer recommendation. Next up, we have the Pittsburgh 3/4 inch ball joint separator. Fantastic tools. If you don't have a way of separating ball joints, obviously there are many ways that you can do it with your basic hand tools that you may have around the house. This just makes it a lot quicker and sometimes a lot less of a headache. This is $20. There you can see the information on it. And this has 4.6 stars with a 93% customer recommendation and 2,291 reviews. So while there are many different ways to separate ball joints, sometimes they can be an absolute pain. And having a simple tool like this can make the job a lot easier and a lot less of a headache. So definitely something to consider. Next up is the Centex 6 and 12 volt circuit tester with 5-foot lead. These are always handy to have if you have a DVOM, anything like that. Obviously, there's a difference. This, you're going to be able to check certain portions of the circuit and see if there is voltage or if there is ground. But unlike a DVOM, this style, you're just going to get a light to show you, but there's actual no readout. There are versions of this. I have this, but with a digital readout that will actually show you the voltage of that part of the circuit, which is nice. While it's probably better to check it with a DVOM afterwards just to make sure that you're getting the proper voltage. That's the downside to these is, yes, you may be getting voltage on that part of the circuit, but is it the proper voltage? So this is a tool that can be extremely handy, but when you're diagnosing, it's just one step in the diagnosis process that will just help you along the way. But for $4, I think it's a great tool. I used to use mine all the time. I haven't used it recently, but when I did a lot of wiring, rewiring the car and everything, it was definitely a tool that I was using quite often. This has 4.7 stars at 97% customer recommendation with 2,695 reviews. Here it states, quickly check any 6 or 12 volt fuse with this handy circuit tester. Yeah, obviously you can check fuses, but you can just check entire portions of the circuit as well. An indicator light in the handle will tell you if it has a current. Just a very basic, simple tool, but definitely a handy tool. And then last up, we're looking at the most rated specialty tool at Harbor Freight, that being the Maddox ball joint service kit. This is for 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive vehicles. So this is basically a more advanced, better tool than what we were looking at before. A little bit more versatile, a little bit more heavy duty. I know a lot of people that use these, and I've actually been pretty dang impressed with them, even in the professional field. Now, obviously, after time, you might want to step up to a little bit better quality, but if you're just getting into it, I think this is one of those items that may do just fine for a while. And because some of these kits in the professional field can get very expensive. This one's at $90. Here they compare it to the OTC at $140, and it does get much more expensive than that. But you get a good variety of attachments here for different styles of ball joints. And it has 4.5 stars with a 95% customer recommendation with 3,004 reviews. There you can see a little bit of information on it. And then the different attachments you'll receive with the kit. So that is the 10 most reviewed automotive specialty tools at Harbor Freight. Kind of my opinion on some of them. And I think some of them are definitely worth the price. Obviously, that's going to be subjective to the amount that you're going to be using the tool, the abuse that that tool might see, the type of tool that it is. And how much you're going to be using it. So please let me know your guys' thoughts on some of these items if you guys have used them or if you're considering some of these. And I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, please make sure to smash that thumbs up, leave a comment down below of your guys' thoughts on these tools. And as always, subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and I'll see you guys next time.